I have a question before we start. I see a non-public after the pledge before public input.
Right.
Is that going to be a while?
I would hope that it wouldn't take that long, but I can't predict.
The reason why I have another meeting to go to at 6.
I'm going to need a motion with regard to the non-public minutes.
You need a motion.
To seal the minutes.
Oh. Did he make it?
No. I'm asking.
Oh, okay. Then I make a motion to seal the minutes of non-public meeting of November 17th.
Is there a second? Okay. Any discussion with regard to that motion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of sealing the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. We're back to the public portion of the meeting, and we're at the public input. Anyone wishing to give public input, would you do so? Yes, and please identify yourself.
Yeah. Mark Neville, 42 Main Street. At the last meeting that you had last month, there was on the agenda that you were talking about addressing the amount of public input that was to be, whether it was 1, 2, or none, and how many minutes that was going to be. What I find, and I'm just going to read this, Francine, if you just want to post it afterwards, you can just take a break. What is interesting about tonight's agenda, then, is that there is suddenly only one public input session allowed for the general public to address the Citizen-Based Police Commission. At last month's meeting, the direction given by Chairman Gagnon after their agenda discussion on determining the amount of public input that was now to be allowed, the conclusion that the Commission had that they were going to wait and look into what other town departments allowed for public input in their respective meetings, and later readdress the topic in a follow-up agenda line. Yet apparently we now find that you collectively decided on your own not to allow more than one public input session tonight, regardless of any inquiries of other departments as stated, and prior to any subsequent police commission discussions or any vote in a public session on the issue. When did you make that decision outside of any public meeting, for sure? The public has now then officially sacrificed a second public input allowed with the police commission, without any feedback from the public for them to do so, without any research of other departments' practices as directed by Chairman Gagnon, and an outright repudiation of any adherence to transparency and accountability on their part, to not allow the public to be heard for more than 5 minutes once every month. Too much happens with this police commission to go over everything with them in a 5-minute time period once a month. I guess my response to this then would be that the Commission's contention that public input takes too much time to listen to. Is it the Commission's message to the citizens that they serve that they've got something more important and better to do than listen to their constituents? Is that your lame conclusion on this issue? What are you afraid of listening to if your behavior is in accordance with the town ethics and proper administrative processes? Got somewhere better to go other than what you are currently sitting? If so, you should not have volunteered for your position to begin with. These meetings are conducted in service to those citizens that attend these meetings who want to express an opinion that may actually add to the Commission's deliberations or may influence the votes by possibly coming up with a more cogent idea to resolve the issue that the Commission members have not yet considered. This Commission sits at the pleasure of the citizens they serve per the RSAs. Commission members are not anointed as all-knowing thinkers just because they are appointed to sit there. The Commission seems to forget their roots and the reason why they are here as being selected from the general public themselves to oversee and not just to overlook the Chief's Police Department. I repeat my firm claim. You are citizen-appointed commissioners accountable to the process and to those you represent in a transparent manner. The Police Commission tends to think that all public input is contrary to the Commission's desires and objectives, creating a perceived unnecessary confrontational atmosphere. You obviously dread hearing public input and now attempt to reduce or eliminate public input altogether. Otherwise, you'd keep it. That is not the case, however. Citizens just want legitimate, truthful answers in an open forum without the Commission's automatic tendency to decline requests, refuse to answer, or conveniently don't recall what they said and did just at last month's meeting. The public is supposedly welcome and invited to attend all meetings to contribute their thoughts. Issues and questions that have been asked of them from months ago still have not been answered. The public is accused of rehashing issues, yet those issues have been fully concluded with a clear truth. Yet those issues have not been fully concluded with a clear, truthful response from them. Repeated attempts to get an answer to a question or an issue is met with "move on," and "we're not going to discuss that anymore." The Commission hopes that questions and issues will go away if they do not answer immediately or in the foreseeable future. If they only answered the questions and addressed the concerns of the public during their input, many of the ongoing controversies, alleged misperceptions, and missteps would not occur or appear in the papers. Put the issues to rest by just answering the questions. But apparently you don't care what we think and clearly want to avoid hearing about it by your decision to reduce public input. So the public is now apparently only allowed 5 minutes, apparently, once per month, timed with a stopwatch. How immature. But it's not about you, Commissioners. It's an arrogant reaction to the legitimate right of all citizens to express themselves at town government meetings. I guess the citizens will now regrettably have to resort to even more public input commentary in the newspapers or media instead, since they don't find any satisfaction at these meetings. Freedom to address public officials, famously illustrated by Norman Rockwell's painting of a citizen standing at a town meeting. I urge this Commission to reconsider their votes here, or apparent vote, because it was never done in public, to reinstate the second public input. Thank you for your time.
I'm going to address that, Mr. Marville.
Sure.
The reason why there isn't another public input on the agenda this evening is my fault. Nobody else is here in that room. My fault. Okay, and I'll tell you the reason why. It was an oversight when we made up the agenda, okay? There should have been two, because we had discussed that what we would do would be to find out how other departments, how other communities were handling it, and until we came to that resolution about how they did it and had a discussion, we would not change. So the onus of that mistake is me, and me alone, okay?
Okay. So there will be...
There will be a second public input tonight. But if there's anybody to blame, it's right here.
Okay.
That's the only person you should be looking at to blame.
Thank you.
And it was not meant. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
David Pearl, 79 Main Street. I guess I'll stand at the podium once here. First of all, I'd like to ask if there's any updates on the 2 complaints that I filed. I've only received 1 letter saying that it was received.
As far as the complaint, the only thing that I can say at this point that the commission has not discussed, since we have not met only as a budget workshop, so we have not discussed that.
Okay. Very good. I just wanted to read this and then I'll hand it in. To the Hooksett Police Commission, please accept this as my formal request for an investigation into the following matter. A memo was written on November 14, 2008 by Officer Jason DeFina concerning issues in the Hooksett schools. Officer DeFina was called in on his day off to write a memo. It is alleged that he was required to remain at the police station for 5 hours. It's also alleged that he was told by his superiors to rewrite the memo until it stated what they wanted it to read. This memo was discussed on April 21, 2009 Police Commission meeting. At that meeting, Police Commission Chair Gagnon declared that he would investigate the memo and that someone was lying. He instructed the chief to contact the Sheriff's Department and start an investigation. Although there was an investigation, it did not cover this memo. This is a serious matter that must be settled. Our police department, it won't be able to move ahead until we figure out what happened here. The allegation that someone was lying referred to a police officer, and I think that's a serious allegation. Please consider engaging a third party to investigate this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here wishing to? Yes.
Maura Willett, 3 Summerfair Street. Your agenda tonight includes discussion of the canine and whether or not to fund another dog with the recent departure of canine officer Robin Gowan to the Manchester Police Department. I would like the commissioners to keep in mind that under Chief Agrafiotis' tenure, we have had 3 canine officers quit the Hooksett Police Department and therefore retire their dogs early. The chief has recently said that he cannot justify the cost of the canine based on past performance. In past evaluations of the most recent canine program, the statistics seem to be manipulated for a desired outcome. Case in point, the chief talks about how ineffective the program has been based on the number of times our dog was used. The reality is that in April of 2008, the chief put Officer McGowan on days until approximately February of 2009. It is common sense that canines, specifically canines trained in drug detection, as our former dog Bob was trained in, are more effective at night. When the chief was questioned by a commissioner about this, the chief blamed the change on drugs in the schools, even though the first pup pipe was not confiscated in the schools until 5 months after the dog had been put on days. When Officer McGowan complained about the change as being ineffective and a hardship on his family, he was told by the chief it was a management right, and he was then assigned to days Monday through Friday, causing an even greater hardship to the officer and making the canine even less effective. Maybe before you look at the effectiveness of the program, you need to examine why we cannot keep officers. You need to stop the bleeding in this department. The officers, as well as the citizens, deserve better. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes.
I've come here, I'm just deeply concerned with the...
Would you please identify
Oh,
yourself?
sorry. Todd Lazat, 21 Post Road. I'm deeply concerned with the implications, reading in the newspaper the other day about the legal fees, that the implication is that there's a strategy of premeditation when applying legal resources to solve employee issues and behavior. As well as we've all observed, the precipitous escalation of legal costs provides that impression that the use of legal advice has superseded the use of management empathy to seek out extenuating circumstances that might be afflicting our officers, such as family issues, as Maura just talked about, and financial issues, or just plain fatigue. The chief agrees that there's a morale problem, but I believe the current strategy to change morale, the idea of bad apple removal, is dangerously toxic. It's obvious that it has failed to boost morale and instead has increased the exodus of officers and staff who have decided it is better to abandon this chief as a leader and seek new mentors or opportunities for growth and a future that is clear. So to understand this situation better, I'd like to make the statement that we need to make sure that we all understand what morale is. Many people tend to think of morale as a state of mind or a mood. The idea that work is not really work, that it's enjoyable and a source of pride. But truthfully, in a police department, morale is better defined as group cohesion. From my reading of the police commission meetings, there's been numerous times when these officers have collectively attempted to create cohesion by forming a patrolmen's association or organizing a policeman's ball or other social gatherings, only to be thwarted in their endeavor. These are the types of issues and behaviors that officers view as reasons for abandoning this chief. In a sense, morale is a behavior of employees wanting to belong to the organization. It is obvious that those that feel entrapped are probably staying put, but those who have options have chosen to abandon this chief. To stop this exodus, I would recommend that the Police Commission seek a means for interviewing the patrol officers and the civilian personnel that remain to better understand how those view the weaknesses of this organization. Once again, if this isn't done, I'm certain that we're going to be losing more and more officers. and I predict we're probably going to lose a couple more the first quarter of next year. Once again, it's clear that these officers that have left have abandoned this chief. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Yes.
Hi, I'm J.R. Willett, 3 Summerfair Street. I've been attending many of your commission meetings since April of 2006, and I've attended as a concerned citizen and will continue to as a concerned citizen. I want to adamantly express to you that in no way have I acted on behalf of the Budget Committee while attending these meetings. Any budget-related issue I may bring up here will be based only on my own assertions and or concerns, and in no way relates to the Budget Committee as a whole. The chief's statement last month to the former Budget Committee member about the Budget Committee removing the funding for 2 officers was an incorrect statement and very misleading. The funding for a vacant lieutenant detective position was eliminated, and funding for a vacant supervisor's dispatch position was eliminated. Both of these positions had both been either vacant for an extended period of time or never been filled. It is very well known and documented this department is extremely top-heavy and has been for many years. As a matter of fact, it's the only department that I could find that has more admin than patrol officers. I would like to clarify what I was trying to express to you last month about the underexpended funds. I've only examined the budget for the last 6 years. The wage line has been continuously underexpended by large amounts during those years. This year alone, the wage line was underexpended by $289,645, not including the benefits line. In 07 and 08, the wage and benefits lines were underexpended by $364,000. In 06-07, the wage line was underexpended by $406,000. In 05 and 06, the wage line was underexpended by $433,000. In 04-05, the wage line was underexpended by $268,000, and in 03-04, it was $265,000. You can certainly see the department has the funds necessary to retain additional patrol officers. I think the chief did a disservice to the community last month by saying the Budget Committee cut 2 police officer positions. It's not right that the chief continues to make these inaccurate and misleading statements and never gets questioned about it. It was clear to everyone present at the meeting that the citizens are concerned about the patrol officer positions, not admin or dispatch. I'm very disappointed with Commissioner Gagnon and Commissioner Roy, as you were present and aware of the cuts that were made to your budget for this year's budget cycle, and both of you chose not to say anything. You allowed the chief to make false statements and let the concerned citizens leave without being informed about the true facts. No existing officer's position were cut, only 1 vacant admin position and 1 vacant dispatch position. I would like to make a request that you have an investigation conducted on the chief for changing the scope of the sheriff's investigation. The chairman was very clear as to what he wanted to be investigated by the sheriff's department. The chief also clearly stated publicly that the investigation was based on what the chairman requested. The memos unmistakably shows the chief knew exactly where Moore received her information in regards to the letter to the editor published in a local newspaper on November 13th. The chief was aware of these memos as previously stated. He made false statements to the media, town council, and you here saying you do not know where Moore was getting her information from. He knew all along where the information came from, as indicated in those memos and as stated by Captain Cecilio. He then had the memo altered to change the version of the actual, what was actual and transpired. He gave the illusion that the issues at the schools did not exist. He also gave the illusion publicly that Moore was being untruthful in her statements by stating that he could not substantiate her information and he could not determine where her reports originated, when he was well aware of where her information originated. This investigation should be by an independent, unbiased investigator that would complete a detailed audit of this department, including interviewing past and present employees, in addition to investigating the chief's management practices. It is my opinion that you owe this investigation to the public, present employees, former employees, the offers that were listed on a letter from the commission in regards to the outcome of the 2005 investigation against the chief, which was carbon copied to the chief, and more. I also would like to make a request that the commission unseal 2005 investigation report. The chief was cleared, therefore the public should have the right to review the investigator's findings. Thank you.
Anyone else here wishing to speak? Seeing none? Okay, we'll move right along. We'll begin with the approval of the minutes. I believe you have those minutes in your packet this evening. We'll begin with the minutes of September 8th. Is September 8th be on the whole sheet? No?
I got September 8th on public.
There you
Posted it, but it's all sealed, just shows the county.
Okay, okay.
There should be approval.
Okay, I need a motion for the September 8th non-public.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion with regard to corrections, errors, omissions? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving those minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll move on to the minutes of September 15th, 2009. The public portion. The public portion is the
I
white.
didn't see it. Oh, there it is. Right.
Has everyone had the opportunity to review those minutes? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Aye.
Okay. Is there any discussion, errors, omissions? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes of September 15, 2009 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, those minutes are also approved. Moving on to the minutes, there's public and non-public minutes.
Right.
The non-public minutes. I'm going to ask that these minutes be set aside, and I need to check further. If that's okay? Okay. The minutes of September 28th are next. The public minutes of September 28th. I'll entertain a motion for the public. Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any errors, omissions? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, those minutes are approved. Moving right along to the minutes, the public portion minutes. You have non-public. Oh, oh, okay, so you do have, okay. So we'll take the non-public minutes of October 6th. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor of approving those minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No opposition, those minutes are approved. Moving right along to the minutes of October 20th. Okay. I'll entertain a motion with regard to October 20th. The
Which one?
there's the public minutes.
So moved.
You have, there's two sets of those. There's the public minutes, public. Yep.
One's public and
One's a
not.
public, okay, so we'll correct that. Okay? So the public portion of the meeting, those minutes, that's the motion that I was looking for, okay?
Mhm.
Are there any corrections with regard to those? Okay. I'll call for a motion on those minutes. All those in favor of approving the minutes as written?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, those minutes are approved. Okay, then we have the non-public portion of those minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Aye.
Any discussion, errors, omissions? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote on those minutes. All those in favor of approving the non-public minutes for October 20th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, seeing none, those minutes are approved. And minutes of October 27th, those are the same thing, those are the non-public.
Which one, public or
We'll start off with the non-public, I'm sorry.
motion?
Second.
Second. Is there a word agreeance or is it an agreement? Is the word agreeance?
Right.
Yeah, I looked at that too.
The commission was in agreeance. I didn't know if that was a word. I think it's agreement.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it could go either way. You got a spell check, Francie?
I didn't.
I think that could go either way. I looked at that too, and I kept saying that. But if you want to change it to agreement,
Agreement. Maybe I learned something today. I have to go back and look at that. Okay. Any other errors, omissions, or whatever? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving those minutes, the non-public minutes of October 27th, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, seeing none, those minutes are approved. Okay? And then we have the public portion of the minutes of October 27th. I'll entertain a motion.
so moved.
Is there a second?
Aye.
Okay. Any discussion, errors, omissions? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the public portion of the minutes of October 27th signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, seeing none, those minutes are approved. And we did the non-public, so those are done. We have the minutes of November 4th for the non-public. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that.
I was not there, so I'm going to have to abstain.
That's right. Okay, I'll second the motion. Any discussion, errors or omissions?
Nope.
Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain.
Yours too.
Go through mine, take them out. Okay, moving right along. Monthly report.
We have the, provided you the town's budget report and the police department's budget report that reflects week 17 out of 52,
Right.
which is 32.69% of the year, and as of October 31st, the PD was 27.37% expended.
Mhm. Are there any questions with regard to that?
No.
Okay. Do you have anything in particular that you want to add to the police budget report?
No.
Okay. Okay, we'll move right along to new business. First of all, there's the police detail fees.
If I could, some of what's on the agenda, some of the items are the public items from last month that we didn't get to because...
Which ones are those?
Well, some of them, they're kind of mixed in here, so I'm going to have to go back to that.
Well, are they on the agenda?
Yeah, they're just in various...
Where are they on the agenda?
No, they're in the agenda, I'm just saying, some of them were from last month, some of them were actually from the new ones from this month. Yeah, they were new last month, but we never got to.
Where are they now, in old business?
No, it's still in the new business, we never got to them last
But
month.
are they on the agenda at all?
Yes,
Are they on this agenda?
yes.
Okay, if they're on this agenda, please specify where they are, and we'll move the agenda around to accommodate that.
What I'm saying is actually, it's easy, I can follow the agenda fine, I will point out to you ones that we were
Okay.
scheduled to talk about
Okay.
last month, but we never made it to.
Okay,
Just for the record. The first item was the police detail fees. That was actually something that we were supposed to discuss in October.
right,
And should have that packet.
yep,
It's titled that from last month's packet.
go ahead.
Every year what happens is with the, when the union contract, there usually is a change every year in the detail rate. So what we do is when the new detail rate kicks in as of July 1st, we go and ask finance to review that new rate as compared to what it costs the town to administer the detail program. And we ask the town if, points to make sure that the town is not losing money by processing details. That's why there is a difference between what the officers get per contract and what the town charges. So every year we review that, and this is the yearly review for that. Francine had asked you to help me from the number the finance said as to what if they were estimating that we should do a change. So there's figure in there. Maybe what's on the previous one. The detail rate went up to 36 as of July 1st per hour.
On the contract?
Yes, from the 34. To this number. Okay, if you look on, I think it's the third page of your packet, you have the breakdown that finance provided us.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like that. So it gives you an idea of what the current costs are. So if you start at the top, goes with the $36, which is the per hour, which is the new fee from the contract. And then finance broke it down as to what it costs as far as direct cost per hour and then the indirect cost per hour. I think finance is not in the past necessarily set an exact number, but said just compare what you're charging, which currently is the 52, to what the cost of the detail is, because it's up to the commission to set a rate up or down, or leave the same, whatever you prefer. I know in the past, if I remember last year, the discussion was to want to make sure the citizens aren't losing, but also be trying to be fair to the contractor. So based on these new numbers, I don't know if since last month, if any of you looked at them and have any ideas of whether you want to stay at the 52 or whether you want to up it given what finance has here, or if you want more information from finance in addition to the breakdown they provided.
Well, I don't know about the other commissioners, but I don't think it should be a situation that the taxpayers should be funding it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
In
why
that
you-
regard, okay, and I think it should be self-supporting, as far as that's concerned, but anything else other than that, I don't know, and perhaps, other commissioners have questions or whatever. I don't know whether or not you're ready to decide on a rate, or whether or not you want further information, you want to go forward with that rate, or?
Finance has always figured it out in the past. Includes the time,
Correct, that's what you have
the
here.
benefits, and everything else that go with it.
That are
That's why,
associated with it, yeah.
It's what we've always used.
I know there are a lot of variables involved, construction, what have you, but do we see details increasing or decreasing, or do we come to a point where they're pricing themselves out of the market?
That's going to be an issue. I asked the captain, have you seen the details going up or down?
Yeah, I mean,
Kind of goes up and down.
where I sign off on them, I would say I haven't seen a marked decrease or increase. I think they've stayed pretty constant in the amount of details that have been coming in.
What's the difference in the cost, that the detail is going up from what?
Went from 34 to 36
Six.
is by contract
Okay.
is what the officers get paid.
And the cost to the, whoever's,
It's the way finance broke it out here. If you're not ready to make a decision tonight, if there's a further question, or maybe you and I can get with the finance director if you want to get more understanding
I-
of this.
I don't, what's the pleasure of the board? Do you want to go forward,
I
or?
want to go forward.
I don't have a problem with 32.
Well,
Okay.
that one, we don't have a choice.
It's the additional cost on top.
What finance is requesting, and I go with that. That way it keeps town whole.
I think what we've done is finance has said what it's actually cost, and then people look at that number and decide if that's what you want to set, if you want to go lower, if you want to go higher.
Well, like I say, I think one of my main, it's twofold. One of my main concerns is that the taxpayers not have to pick up the burden of this, for those details, okay? And secondly, we don't want to price it such that, they're not going to do any of that.
Can't control both.
So it's your pleasure to make a motion on a number.
Okay, just a minute, if you would. There's the representative from the town council has a comment he'd like to make.
I
Are
was
you
wondering
agree?
what the private sector is charging. How are we stacking up against the
I don't
private
know.
sector? Are we losing business to the private sector, or is the officers or not?
Manchester just went up considerably. So I think we're right
Would
in that
be nice
ballpark.
to know.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, but I don't know how you're going to find that
You're
out.
nowhere near that
Don't have
ballpark.
contractors to contact.
You're nowhere near that.
Pardon me?
You're nowhere near that. What the private flaggers charge.
Do you want to inquire to see?
We're less,
No.
we're higher.
Well, yeah, because they're
Yeah.
paying their employees $9 an hour.
Yeah.
It's a big difference.
We can set this aside and inquire.
What questions? Will you just give us your questions, and we'll get that information for you for the next meeting?
Is it paramount that you have an answer tonight?
No.
Okay. I
How-
think,
How do we find out? I mean, would they list these type of agencies that perform this kind of service, like in the yellow pages, or
Yeah.
do they have a lot of them?
There's a few. I mean, those you could call up. I mean, companies that use their own people. There's so many different companies. Sometimes you'll see like public service, or whatever, out there, and they're using their own people.
Right.
So you don't know who they grab, if you will, to stand and do that from the crew or from anybody else. You can check with some other agencies if you want to, if you want to
okay,
get some.
why don't we do that then?
Okay, so.
I know the individual who ran for Alderman in Manchester, that Hirschman, I think
Right.
he has his own firm.
Manchester's got a lock on the details, that's why.
And you can put this under old business, make sure
That's by
it's on the
statute, they
agenda.
have to call
next time.
first.
Okay, moving right along.
Second.
Oh, you have something else with that?
No, I'm just writing down what
Okay.
to get for next meeting.
Now, what else did you have that,
From the last meeting? Let's see. Probably just easier to go down through our agenda this way, and I'll just bounce back and forth and identify what was new this month versus
who are you
last
talking
month.
about, our agenda?
The agenda,
Your
tonight's
agenda
agenda, no,
or tonight's
tonight's
agenda?
agenda.
Oh, okay. Moving right along to, through new business, the next item would be community awareness program.
Right. As everybody knows, the community awareness program was held November 9th at the library from 7 to 8. One of the things for the commission out of that is the commission still has to decide on a representative to Manchester Crime Line. It may not be something you have to decide tonight, but it's something you're going to need to think about, so that Tewksbury has representation on Crime Line panel.
Can we find out what's involved? Is there a job description or?
One meeting a month.
Huh?
One meeting a month.
One meeting a month?
So I think that's what they said.
Cap Cecilio had the contact with him, he's out with the flu, so he was supposed to be here tonight to get he's obviously has the details on that, so I'm just, you can wait on that, or or think about how you want to do it.
If we can find out the composition of the board, and I'm sure somebody might know somebody, at least we can talk to somebody about what's involved before we commit ourselves.
Okay, so
Or ask somebody to do it. They don't have any information, they don't even ask somebody to
Right.
do it. I don't know what their schedule is, whether it's days or nights.
yeah, I think we need more information about, first of all, when they meet, and second of all, what's the expectation?
They're a civilian board, correct?
I'm sorry, what?
They're a civilian board, correct?
Somebody say 15 the last meeting, is that what somebody just said? Was it on their board?
Oh, I don't know.
He said there was quite a, I don't remember the
Manchester
number.
officer talked about it. I
Yeah.
don't remember.
He said there was a substantial number of people, I believe.
Okay, well, we'll get you the extra information of the job description, schedule, meeting dates.
That moves ahead though, even without,
Yes, from our point of view.
we're not holding anything up.
No.
Okay.
Another question to ask, could it be simply a community member?
That's totally up to the commission.
Okay, just a question to ask,
That's totally
okay?
up to the commission.
Okay, thank you. The next item is the K-9.
Yep, K-9, I believe you want to have put on the agenda.
Yes.
so-
I believe that we no longer have K-9 officer for the dog, and I just wondered with regard to that, whether or not it's something that we feel that the department should have, or we should, and I haven't got the slightest.
I'd like to ask Lieutenant Klein, who's involved in monitoring the program and was involved in K-9 in his prior agency, to give you a quick update.
Sure.
At the current time, with the loss of our canine officer, right now, as far as the staffing is concerned, I'm a very strong supporter of the canine, and I push hard for them because I believe it's a valuable asset to the agency. But at this point, I think we need to wait it out for a time frame to get these new officers that are coming on board the field training officer program, because some of the candidates you may be looking at, potential candidates for the canine program, are actually field training officers. And they're so busy training new officers that it's going to be kind of difficult. You're talking about some expenditures that are going to be incurred by training a new dog. I want a dog, but I want to get back up to full staff and start getting the streets covered with police officers before we go with specialty. I think that it's a valuable program. Did I answer your question, Commissioner?
Yes, doesn't anybody have any questions, or what is the wish of the board? Yes.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
While we're without one, what is involved in the mutual aid, or how quick a response do we get a dog, or if we need one, or?
Generally, what we do is we call on other canine units for neighboring communities to include the state police. It depends on how busy they are on any given night. Their dog may be on another track, and their dog may be otherwise occupied. Their dogs all may be at training. The availability is that it's obviously going to be diminished with not having the ability of our own dog to be able to go out and handle those calls. I think that we've had some pretty good success with Manchester coming on board, doing some recent searches for us, and the state police. They're pretty readily available, but again, it's going to depend on what they've got going on in their specific community, or the state police and whatever they're handling in their area. So I think that we can keep an eye on that. We're still going to document times that we should have used the canine. My goal is to at least track that information, to show the need for the canine, because I've already made it clear to the chief that I do want another dog. It's just a matter of the timing at this point. I just want to make sure we have people on board.
Pardon me? Sure. Sorry.
I just have one more question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
On the mutual aid, now, there's no charge, right?
No, they will come in, generally they're gonna call their dog out, they pay for their dog to go out, come to our community. Normally with a different agency, the dog's working already, is when they would call them out. They might call, on a very rare occasion, they're gonna call one of their dogs in from home to go to Hooksett. Generally, what we look for is, the first thing I have my patrol section do is contact the nearest canine, get them here, depending on exactly what the call is, and those types of things into consideration. So yeah, it's just a matter of, we don't incur any cost by calling them in. It just depends on, like I said, you're playing a gamble on them being available, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I was a big supporter of this dog. Put a lot of time and effort with Rob in watching that dog. All the extra equipment that Cruiser has was put forth because we were going to do it right. I think if we're going to do it right again a second time, this board ought to consider the fact that this agency or any other needs 2 dogs. One dog can't be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you do it, we should really look at the fact that you need 2 dogs to make it successful. Do you agree?
You're not going to get a disagreement out of me. I'm a very strong supporter of the canines. I'd take 2 if you gave them to me in a heartbeat.
And I understand that, but there's a large cost involved in that, and the program has to be done by somebody who really wants to do it. Last time we got a dog, we weren't getting another dog, but Rob put a lot of time and effort into that research of that particular dog and everything that went through to training the dog, and that's why we accepted getting another dog, was because of his enthusiasm. So for the right people, and I say people because I still believe it's going to take 2, one is almost a waste.
I think you're right, and I think that you really have to be very selective in the officers that you choose, because they have to take some ownership of that program. Myself, as having oversight over the program as patrol lieutenant, I've already discussed with the chief that if I was going to put a proposal together, I would actually do a lot of homework and do a very detailed proposal on what I wanted to see in terms of a canine program, whether it be 1 dog or 2 dogs. But I wanted that clear and black and white to propose up to the chief and to you folks to say, this is what my expectations would be for a canine program. I would encourage that we do the same thing. I know there's a cost incurred, but we have a patrol dog and drug habit dual purpose dog, be patrol and drug. We lost a patrol and a drug dog to Rob going to a different agency, so I'd like to not start at the bottom again. I've discussed this with the chief as well, so if we were to do it, I'd want to do it that way. But I mean, I'll take what I can get for right now. But in the interim, I wanted you all to understand that my mindset would be is I want to get my staff up first in the patrol section rather than trying to immediately jump into a program that's specialized field. I just think it's best to get the people on the street first.
I could certainly appreciate that, and I think it certainly does have some merit that you need to have the staff. With regard to whether or not it's 1 or 2, I was reminded today by someone from the council with regard to the budget and how we were expected to hold the line. And I guess I would look at it this way. I don't think that we should say, if we don't get 2, we don't want anything. That's not the approach to go. I think that probably we have to look at it and say, what is the best time to have that individual working with that dog? What is the time that we're going to be maximizing? Okay, that's the approach probably that we have to take. Do we at some point try to move forward to getting 2? Maybe that is the way that we have to go to have the protection that we need and to be able to do what we have to do. But I don't think that we should be of the mindset that it's all or nothing. If we don't get to, we're not playing that game. But like I said, I was reminded today about the fact of the budget, that what the expectation is. And I'm mindful of that, but I also think that, and it was said again last night, that the responsibility of the commission is to make sure that this community is safe. And that's the direction we need to take. Yes?
And the current budget that you reviewed, draft 2 last night, does not have K-9 in there.
Right. And that's something that, we're going to have to discuss at the budget workshop, whether or not we're going to include that or what we're going to do. But I think that's the avenue we have, and we have not had that final discussion, so.
Commissioner,
Just to clarify something, I didn't say 2 or nothing.
Oh, I know, but I just didn't want
2
you.
is the ultimate,
Right.
where one person can't be called or expect to answer
All the
the
time.
call all the time.
Sure.
It's not fair.
Right. I understood that, yes.
That's all I was gonna say. If you give me one dog, I'll be happy.
I'm going to have a French poodle.
No thanks.
And it's going to ride with you.
No thanks. I'm all set with that.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to hear that people feel that it is something that we should have. I appreciate that.
I have one question.
Sure.
Can we have some kind of a feel for what kind of cost we're speaking about before our next budget session?
On the train up and whatnot for the new dog?
Right.
That's like we did last time, which is the purchase, the training for the dog, the training time for the officer, hours.
It would still be half a year away into the new budget. By the time he's done letting them train other people, like you just said, before you're going to be ready to think about it.
That's
So
the issue.
Right. But I think if it's something that not only that we want to see, even if we're putting in for a portion of the year, we should make sure that it's included in this
Right, and
budget.
that's why I brought it up as far as the budget discussion of,
Right.
given what the council direction has been, whether you want to include that or not include that in the whole budget.
Okay. Yes. Did you have anything else?
No, you can,
Go back to,
yeah,
to,
just flip over your agenda.
okay. Old business, okay, conversion of unused vacation time.
Yeah, you had asked about that being put on the agenda, and
Well, the reason why I asked that it be put on the agenda, because when it came up for discussion, the comment was that it was in some of the minutes back when, and I could not find it, and I guess my question was, is there a policy with regard to that?
I'll exit, go.
2005, November 8th, 2005. Commissioner Hess motioned that after approval by the commission to allow an employee to carry over vacation time, the chief would then be authorized to decide if the employee would receive pay or be allowed to carry over their time, seconded by chairperson Gagnon. Motion carried unanimously. I don't know why we didn't have a policy, though. I mean,
the discussion that
I
led
mean-
to those was that it's case by case, and it has to come to the commission, so I think that is reflected in there, that it comes to the commission. By me, I have to explain why. If we're going to do that, it doesn't happen very often, but back then when we had a shortage of command staff, we were using people both on the road and command staff, and
I think that's the only reason, the only legitimate reason for not taking it is because they couldn't take it because of the major work.
mhm.
And
But
it
I
was
guess-
felt that it was fair that if you were told that you couldn't take your vacation, that you didn't lose it.
Right, use it or lose it. I guess it would be my thought that there would be a formal policy.
well, I think potentially you're at the point now, I think, where you could say that as the department has grown, that we probably don't need that anymore, to be honest with you. I mean, that was to give me some options and leeway with my staff, but I'm not really sure we need that unless the budget really.
Well, we
takes
did it
into
not
account.
too long ago.
Right, but I'm saying now that we're discussing it, if there's a concern about it, you can write the policy out of what I just said, or you can just say, look, we really don't, we did it because we had issues back then, situation has changed, and we really don't need to be addressing that issue, and the commission could decide to change that decision and say that now it is, to use it or lose it for everybody, and just go forward with that, and that would be the policy.
What is the thought of the commission? Do you want to have something written, formally written, that it's either used or you lose it?
That is the written policy now, I believe, is it not?
In the contract, it is for the contract. for
But
the-
this was
I'm not
non-union
sure for the
people.
non-union people.
This was non-union people.
And
The
again, that was
only-
to address a specific issue that was occurring.
Right. I guess the only reason why,
If it's in a union contract, it should be,
That's what I'm saying, just make it applicable to everybody.
right,
This
right,
is-
and that's why I say the other thing is,
people
if
should
it
take
is a
vacation.
policy, you have to be consistent with everyone. It can't be for some, and,
Well, you can't do that with
Right.
unions, it doesn't work that way.
well, the union I understand because it's written, but
Right.
these are for non-union people. And the only time that you could do otherwise is if you brought it in front of the board and asked the board to
Well,
make an
I would always
exception.
have to bring it in front of the board.
I know, but that's what that one, but what I'm saying is,
Why don't we just, everybody should take their vacation, they
Well, that's what
earn
I'm
it, they
saying, that was a
deserve it,
specific
and
issue.
they need time away.
Right, that decision by the commission addressed a specific issue, time frame back then. I really don't think that exists now, so I think you're just going to use it or lose it across the board.
then write something to that effect for
Well-
those employees.
Okay, you want that, do you want to take the vote tonight to do that, or do you want me to bring back language at the next
I'll
meeting?
entertain a motion to direct the chief to bring forth a policy with regard to vacation time that is not used, to bring
For
forth,
non-union employees.
for non-union employees to bring forth to the commission at the next meeting. Just the policies, not, you can debate the language when you get it back.
So we need a motion for him to bring back language
Right?
to discuss.
You have to discuss.
Whatever way you want to do it, I'll do whatever way you want. You can just direct me to bring back language for your discussion next
I
month.
don't really need a motion, we just direct them.
You can have a consensus.
Yeah, just bring back the language next month.
Basically, language to
Yeah,
rescind
we'll
that
discuss
to
it and-
to what we just talked about.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you. Moving right along.
Exit interviews, the commission, you talked about exit interviews, a few meetings ago.
You forgot B,
Huh?
B,
Where did I go?
commission expansion.
Oh, I'm sorry, commission expansion. If you wanted that on the agenda also.
Okay, yep. That's been something that's been banted about, and I didn't know whether or not the commission wanted to weigh in, or whether or not they just wanted to leave it alone and let whatever happens, happens. Did they want to weigh in?
Haven't been formally asked. It's not our decision.
We have no control over that if he wants to introduce a bill at the legislature.
I believe, Mr. Loisel, do you know whether or not they've submitted the bill to the legislature?
I believe it's been submitted, yep, has been submitted. But weigh in from the standpoint of just an opinion.
Right.
So then there'll be a hearing and there'll be public input.
There'll be public input, and if the House supports it, then it still goes to the voters.
The voters will make the ultimate
Town will
decision.
make the final decision. Consensus of the council was that, for the same reason, the town went from a 3-member board of selectmen to a 9-member council, was for better representation. And we feel the same way that 5 would be a better representation than 3. The town has grown and so it grows.
Either way, doesn't matter.
I would do the public input when they have the hearing.
So you want to wait till that public input? Okay. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. You feel the same way? You want to wait till the... Okay. Moving right along.
I'm sorry, now you have your actual interview
Uh,
discussion.
Yep. I believe we had this on the agenda at one point, and I don't believe we fully vetted it to decide whether or not we do or we don't. And I know you had provided some language or some discussion.
Right, and then you were going to think about it and
Right.
discuss it among yourselves.
Right.
Didn't we bring back, weren't we supposed to bring back the opinion we got? Oh, we didn't have that,
No,
right?
no, there wasn't a written opinion. I gave you what the verbal opinion was. I gave you this one article that I had come across in the Employee Recruitment and Retention publication. You talked about it and then said that you'd all think about it and then talk at a further meeting about whether that's something you want to think about, not think about, put on hold. It was up after you all thought about it, what you wanted to do about it.
I am in somewhat of agreement with regard to not only doing it, but I think one of the suggestions was in that article or whatever that it was recommendation that they allow some time to pass.
Yes, this article had mentioned that.
Right. The only question I had was who would be involved in doing the exit interview? What kind of a panel would you be talking about?
That's totally up to you people.
Do you know of departments or whatever, what kind of a panel they have?
The town departments now, I don't know how they do it.
I think before we do something, we should have an idea as to what, you know.
What the town does? You want to find out what the town does? Call Liz up there and find out what the town does.
Human resources.
You know, Paul?
I would think most towns use human resources. Yeah,
Right. Well,
If they do.
they do them, yeah.
right.
Usually they do them because the data back is, in some cases, helpful.
The list of questions has to be made up
Up beforehand and they.
permanently.
Right. Same questions asked.
That's correct.
The town had an old list of questions from 2001, Paul, April 20th of 2001, so I don't know what the town currently does, so we can get you at least what the town currently does.
I want to do that.
Yeah.
Liz
Right.
could get a list from a number of towns.
There's a gentleman that is in the public, and he raised his hand. Do you want to allow him to participate in this discussion or raise his question or whatever? Do you have a problem with it? Okay, go ahead.
In my company, what we end up doing is, depending on the department or the position which the person left, we usually have an employee board. So it's usually just two of the co-workers, and they conduct the interview. The idea is that they'd be more free to answer questions, and you'd get a better sample.
Do they, if I can, do they wait a period of time after the person has left the organization?
And, it depends. Sometimes we do exit interviews within weeks of them leaving. They know that then they have the ability in which to say they don't wish to do it. But I've seen it upwards of a couple months, but no longer than that. Usually at that point, they just don't want to talk anyway.
Can I ask one more question? Do you ask them at the time that they submit their resignation? How did?
We have a documentation. It's basically if they handed in their resignation, we have a checklist of things that either have been issued to them, so they need to rectify that, and then we have them sign off, especially confidentiality and stuff of that nature. And in that, it basically says that we'd like to conduct an exit interview at your leisure and so forth, and you could participate in it. Of course, if it's someone we've escorted out of the building, that's a different story. But if it's someone who's leaving, seeking new opportunities, we try to bring them back into the fold and keep communications.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well,
Chief, for the next meeting, can you put in our packet, you know, all the opinions and all the literature you have on these exit interviews?
You know, like I said, the legal opinion that the commission had received a number of years ago was not written. That was not written, that was verbal, so we only...
And that was not, it was not a good idea, if I remember right?
Correct, that was that opinion.
But I mean, you said you had some other literature.
Actually, something I had already sent you people.
It was in a prior,
I'll put it back, I'll put it in the next one.
is there a black hole someplace?
I'll put it in the next one with whatever the updated that I get from the town HRs, and then you
Right.
can look at that.
It would be good to have that information.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
get that for the next
Okay,
meeting.
thank you. Moving right along to item D.
Yeah. I believe you wanted that on the agenda also, and I don't...
I don't know where we are with regard to that. Or what's the consensus that we should be doing? Should we be doing anything else or whatever? Is that more or less?
From talking to Captain Cilio and from the police, and I don't think there's anything more to do. We did deal with the family, even though the press reported that we weren't down there. It was confirmed with the lady that there was an officer down at the bus stop. So I think, as I said a few months ago, we deal with the issues one-on-one, each individual case. So as far as I know, we dealt with that one, I think, correctly and the best we could. But each case is different. Each case that pops up, that's why we deal with them, case by case.
Okay. Thank you.
Who puts the list on the door of the town hall? Does that come through us, or?
Do we provide that, or are they getting it off the website?
I mean, maybe even off the website.
Is that
public
law?
knowledge?
It's straight from the door.
Right, but you know, is administration getting it off the state website?
They could be, I don't know, but I can't give you any answer, Chief, on whether or not we provide the information, but it's public information.
I think there was a paper posted in the lobby, if that's what you're talking about. And I think it came from Town Hall, but I'm not 100% sure.
But I mean, when you walk in a town hall, right on the door, there's a list.
list,
of
right.
all these
The town-
individuals.
We provided a map. We did provide a map of Hooksett
Yeah, map
with
location.
just highlighted locations of sex offenders.
The only problem with that is, do we update it? Are we gonna update it? I mean, if we're gonna provide something, we can't just do it once
Right.
and walk away from it. I mean,
Should be updated.
The other piece of that too, if I could, Commissioners, would be that, the website, the state website identifies where they are.
No, and I understand that, but I'm saying if we provide something, we have to update it. Otherwise, we need to take it down and put the state's thing up there, or have somebody put it up there. I just don't want us to have false locations. If somebody moves or new ones come in,
I agree.
Right.
That's
I'm with posting it, don't misunderstand me. I just want us to be able to update it. And I don't think they have to notify us if they leave. They have to notify the new department, correct?
I think they have to notify us if they leave also.
I think it goes both
Yeah, I think
ways.
it's both ways.
So the person to ask would be Detective
Right.
Bouchard.
We have a detective that's
Let's check that, so that way we know if there's an update needed.
Don't you have a responsibility as a department to every once in a while check if they're living where they say, isn't
She
that?
does.
Yeah,
She does, on a regular basis.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I know we have a person that does that, but I'll double, as far as I know, they were gonna keep updating that when we did the monthly, I think it's they come in every month, but.
Yeah, I don't-
We have a person that does it.
So that would be part of the update.
They're part of compliance checks, Commissioner.
Right, exactly, that's what I thought, that was
We have the
it.
whole list, and we have a detective that's trained in that and does the compliance checks every
So
month.
as Dave is saying, that's part of the updating. If you're
Yes,
going to
yes,
have a list
exactly.
there, he wants to make
Yes.
sure that it's
I think we
updated.
should.
As far as I
And
know,
the fact
I'll
that
check to make sure
you're
it's
making
done.
sure that they're compliant, that's
Right.
going to cause the list to be updated.
Right,
Okay, that's fine, as long as we have a means of doing it.
right, no, we have a
And I
means of
think
doing
we
it.
should post it, I think we should post it as many places as we can.
I'll just
but-
double check to make sure the mechanism is in place, but that's
Yeah.
my understanding. and that's-
Is that the only place it's posted?
I believe it's the town
I
hall.
believe the map was the only place it was posted. The list, again, anybody can go to the state website anytime and get the latest information as the state changes it.
But that list that's on that door now, we didn't generate that.
We're not sure. We think
Not
we did.
sure, I think.
I got a feeling-
Lieutenant Klein, did you say it was generated by the department, that list?
That list
One
on-
door, no, I can't positively, I have no idea.
Okay, could you
I know the
inquire?
map, I could ask Captain Cilio. I mean, I know that Captain Cilio was working on the map, I'm not sure if a per se list was generated by him, but when he comes back into work, I'm sure I can talk.
Well,
to
if
him.
the list is going to be updated again, because you're going to find out whether or not they're
Can
compliant,
we post it here?
so we should, yeah, it should
It
be
is
posted.
posted out there, I thought.
The list?
I thought it was posted on one of the bulletin boards out there, I'm not positive. That's, excuse me for, I don't want to step out of my lane, it's a detective division function, is what they've been actually working on that.
But can we check?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, I appreciate that. The next item is the CIP proposal results.
That was just if you were, want to give a, or me, whatever, give a quick
Go
update
ahead,
of our meeting.
go ahead.
On November 10th, Chairman and myself presented our CIP proposal, which is our one item, which is the continuing to put money aside for the communications program expansion or replacement of equipment. I think the proposal went well. I think the committee understood that in numerous years, when you look at the history, that CIP item was not funded to the level that had been requested, and a number of years there was no funding put there, so that the concern that we all have is that somewhere down the road, at some point, that equipment's going to need to be replaced. Portions of it, maybe not all of it. So I believe the committee was going to consider, once they saw all the CIP items for the year, what the needs were of the town and what the ability to pay was, if you will, and the ability of all of us to pay, and potentially put that in and not have it zeroed out this year, and maybe even put some more money to it. Obviously, that CIP committee is the first step. It goes to the planning board, and then to the town council, and then I guess off to the budget committee. So.
But they also did have another request.
Right, we're looking into that. They had a request to look into can that type of electronic equipment be leased rather than purchased. We did check with Ospey Mountain Electronics, talked to Captain Daigle earlier today. Ospey Mountain themselves does not do it through Motorola, but there's third-party companies, so we're now following up on that to see are they a financing company or what the story is. So we are still digging into that question to have it in time for the next CIP meeting.
You mean, which is the 24th?
I think. So
The 24th.
you and I will be back at the CIP on the 24th with the final answer for that, and then from there we'll see what the CIP thinks about our Pacific program.
Mhm. I think the general consensus of the CIP committee was that they were in agreement that putting aside just $10,000 doesn't get us really anywhere. And like I said, you know, not even in our lifetime is it going to happen if we're going to go at that rate. But I think they're also very cognizant of the fact of the directive that they got from the council, and you know, they don't want to spike the tax rate either, and it's a matter of finding that balance, and that's why I guess they asked the other question about the leasing, which we said we would provide. So we don't know which direction, but they are in agreement that it is something that they should set aside funds for and provide for. So. The next item is the impact fee.
Yeah, if you remember, back in, I think it was September, we talked about the possibility of using impact fee money and the police impact fee money towards the laptops and the cruisers to hook them to the system here at the station. We did send a letter, or I did send a letter to Bob Mayor's office. He responded on October 6th, which is, I don't know if you have it still with you, but it was put in your packet in the October meeting, where bottom line is, legal opinion is, yes, the impact fee money in the police impact fee line can be used, that program that we've been talking about is an expansion. So we have that letter now. Carol has a copy of that letter. Carol is working with the facilities committee to make sure that the facilities committee is not at some point looking to tap into that money. So we don't have two entities, and we talked about that, tapping into that same money. Because that CIP line, or that impact fee line for the building, if you remember back to the Bruce Mayberry study, was that it would be for infrastructure, and for us it was, the thought was then it was expansion of the building. So we don't want to have...
I don't think we can expand a building we haven't fixed yet.
I'm just saying, I just wanted to make sure from the town that the town wasn't planning some long-range use of that money.
I think we can add another floor onto the floors that don't...
So Carol's looking at that from the town end. From our end, we've gotten all but one piece of information back on the cost from the different vendors that have to be involved. There's the computers, there's Verizon.
So we don't have an estimate on cost and how much the impact fees would cover?
I think the impact fees are going to cover all of it.
Oh,
I don't have the
great.
final cost right now.
That'd be
We have
perfect.
one more vendor to give us the cost before I can come to you with a written saying, here's the cost, this is how many vehicles, this is the equipment, here's the cost per vendor, and here's what's in the impact fee. But I also am waiting to get so we're putting that together for you, and we're waiting to see if Carol has any input on that.
Excellent, good.
So that is moving along. It does take time because obviously all the equipment has to be spec'd out for the radio connection back and forth.
Chief, how's the window of time on the impact fee? Because you know
We have
Right,
plenty of
yeah,
time.
no, I think,
there's...
yeah, no, we're all set right now, I believe.
We used some of it when they did the new towers, so I think we're all set as far as timeline.
Right, according to the September 2009 impact fee report, it was over $99,000, and they said it had a use or return date of January 5th, 2012.
On the first one, the oldest one,
That's just how she has it on here.
yeah, but there should be different amounts of money
Right.
that expire at different times.
Right.
She usually puts that, Christine usually puts that on her report
That would be
when she
the
sends the report.
Right, but
We
that's,
give it your-
so
I would
that's
hope.
one day.
Oh, yeah.
But can we make sure that's the earliest expiration of any of the money? Just, I mean,
Because she usually puts that on.
Mhm.
You're right, you need to know that information.
I think we have plenty of time because we used a bulk of it, the older stuff when we did the towers.
43,958 at one point.
Yeah, so that was
Right,
when we did the
oldest,
towers.
right.
So I think we're okay, but let's just double check so we don't
Right.
plan on something that isn't gonna be
You
there.
have to give it all back.
I know.
That's all right.
Okay, moving right along to other business. I just have one item that I'd like to engage a little bit, and that was about the graffiti, and I guess the council, we had asked Paul whether or not the council was going to put forth some kind of do you know what happened with regard to that?
No, I don't.
Well, it's in the
I'll check
minutes.
it tomorrow night. I'll bring it up tomorrow night. That's true, it was brought up.
Do you recall that now?
Yes, I do.
Okay. The other item I had, and it's not a big thing, but I just wonder whether or not it's something that we can do. When we copy the minutes, can we copy them on both sides of the paper?
Whatever you want. Work it out with the boss that does that.
Save some money, you know. Like Butch says, he's got a lot of paper.
You got that, you got that.
There's a lot of shred.
You also
That's
have a
full,
firm.
too.
Okay, and one other thing that I'd like to kind of institute that we don't have, that we should do, is items for the next agenda. Those items that we're going to be working on for the next agenda. You know that list that you have, that you got this evening?
Yes, for those items, yes.
Yes. Okay, to make sure
Those get on.
them on the agenda. Is there anything else that you have that you want to see, or that you thought about that you feel we need to discuss at the next meeting?
No, I'm good. Haven't discussed everything at this meeting yet.
Okay, go ahead.
You told Mr. Michael we'd have a discussion on public input at this meeting. We
That's
have not
right,
done
we haven't
that.
gotten to that yet.
Didn't want you to forget.
I didn't forget, really. I have it right here, I have it right here. Yes, we are going to discuss the public input. At the last couple of meetings, we've had some discussion, but not a whole lot of discussion, because I think the thought was that we would inquire from other committees and other departments how they went about doing public input. I don't know if it was the last meeting or the prior meeting before that, I had said that I had surveyed by looking at other minutes of other departments within the town. And what I had surmised from that is that that most of them had a public input at the beginning and one at the end. My question was, do we want it 5 minutes, or do we want it 3 minutes, or do we want it to be depending on what the input is? And I think the thing of it is, if you don't put a time limit, you could have someone that could go on ad nauseam, and then you could have, and is it fair?
I think we should have the 2 and stay at the 5 minutes, after seeing what all the other boards do.
Okay.
Well, you said we're canvassing other people.
We already did. Did you
I
have
looked,
that?
I did.
I had it in one of the packets, or it was the email.
Francine
Yeah.
had been asked to.
Oh,
send
he
information
emailed
to all
you,
of
Did
she
you email?
emailed you, that's
Was it
why.
only me?
Well,
Yeah.
it was before when you were
Oh, I'm
chairperson,
sorry.
look at it, and then
So you-
I forwarded it to Joanne.
Yeah.
I know I watch the aldermanic meetings in Manchester, they give them 3 minutes, and up front, that's it.
Is it, if I, question, is it 3 per person?
Yeah.
Is that how they do it?
Yes.
But somebody
Council's
times
is-
them.
The council
You have a time frame.
operates, yeah, we use the 5-minute window, but we also allow appointments. So in other words, if an individual in the public wants to bring an issue to the council, they get an appointment. They are on the agenda, and that's different from public input. Public input is not a dialogue. No, it's not a,
Two-way.
it's
not a bar.
a two-way street. It's input that comes in, we say, thank you very much, and that's it. Whereas if someone is on the agenda, they bring the issue up and they're looking for a response and they're looking for the council to be proactive or active on that issue.
Do you have any criteria with regard to what?
No, that's up to the council chair. Council chair decides if an individual will be on the agenda, and unless some person is way off the wall, any reasonable request is that we definitely accept them to come forward. And we don't put it in the clock room. They have an appointment specifically for 7 o'clock or 7:15. You'll see it on the agenda that that individual is allowed to speak.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sure.
Well, is there any criteria, though? I know I've been in enough of your meetings, but if somebody, when that person wants to get on, do they call town hall and say, this is the issue I want to discuss?
Yes.
And then that gets passed to the chair?
That gets passed to the chair.
Who decides
Between the
whether
chair-
it's public input
Between
or?
the chair and the administrator.
Okay.
In this case, it would be probably between yourself
Okay.
and...
But do they then decide whether it's going to be public input or an appointment? Setting an appointment with you?
No, it's generally an appointment.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an appointment. Public input is just...
It's just open?
Yeah, just open. That seems to work really well.
I guess my only thing with regard to this, and that's why this issue seems to resurface at times, is that when someone made an appointment and came in, they were allowed unlimited time.
That's appointments.
Right. But and if you say you have public input and you're only limited to 3 or 5 minutes, you've only given them that window of time, that opportunity of time to state their
But an
case.
appointment is for,
And that's the
is
thing.
for business.
It's for business, not for...
That's why the chair has to decide if it's for business or you know, a 20-minute speech. I think that's the job of the chair.
Okay. Is that
Yeah,
Is that the way you want to
do it, right?
okay?
So what are we doing?
I guess we're going to go, depending on what you, as commissioners, want. You want to go with the 3, the 5? Limit it, 5 minutes?
Yeah, my motion's for the 5 minutes in 2 places.
At the beginning and at the end of the meeting.
Correct.
And that it will be between the chair and whomever as far as
As far as
appointments.
appointments, correct.
Okay.
You go with that?
I would prefer the 3 and 3 and then with the appointments. before giving them two chances.
Break the vote, break the tie. But you get paid the big bucks for.
Oh, okay, yeah. We're all gonna go out on it too.
Just one more piece of input with regard to appointments. When the individual calls and you discuss the issue that he wants the appointment for, we pretty much decide with a degree of flexibility that says, well, will 5 minutes do it, or you need 10? And
Oh, so you could essentially limit,
we essentially try it because we have to look and say, well, if we have 3 appointments that evening, we can't let the first person just go on for a half an hour. It just isn't doable. So we say, hey, we do have this window of time of 15 minutes. Will that cover your need? And in most cases, they say 5 minutes.
For the appointment.
Yeah.
All right.
I guess I'm gonna go with the 5 minutes. 5 minutes for each. And I guess we're gonna have to hold people to it, or before they speak, please inform that it is 5 minutes. And you know, it would not be a bad idea on the agenda itself to put that there is public input and put the guidelines.
Sweet.
I know.
More than what's there now? The public input 5 minutes. Do you want more wording than what's there? Would you want to explain it
Yeah.
each meeting? When you open it up, just explain.
More than we have on ours.
Yeah, you could just
What
say
do
it
you
when you
have?
open up public input.
Right, right,
We do restrict it to 5 minutes.
I think that's, what's
Right,
written is good
right,
enough. You
right.
can just,
right, yeah. I guess we'll go with what we have right now,
Beginning and 5 minutes.
minutes, and we'll leave what's on here now, and we'll announce it at the beginning, okay? If we have problems with it, we'll have to come back and revisit it again, and perhaps put more of a statement with regard to guidelines.
Question for clarification. Now, are you going to let it, put it out to the public that if somebody wants to get on the agenda, then to call in? Otherwise, they know that they're coming in under the public input as the council does. If they're on the agenda, they know they're scheduled to be on, and the chair has put that on.
What kind of directive does the council have with regard to that?
and you should have a timeline for calling in.
Well, yeah.
That's
Obviously,
usually-
they have to call in before the package
Agendas,
goes
right.
out.
Right.
See on the, if I recall on the school board, that there was a notation on the agenda, if you wish to be on the agenda, you had to contact the superintendent's office by a certain date to be,
Well, so I guess I'm asking, do you
And
want to
they
do that
have to-
also?
yeah, and they have to check with the chair whether or not,
So if you want to do that, then what time frame do you want to do that on, so we know, so we can structure it?
I think it has to be at least a week before, because,
I agree.
Yeah.
That's fair. Don't fancy cell phone number.
I just want to make sure we understand, because
Right.
beginning and end is easy, we've done that, but I just want to make sure
Yeah.
while we're talking about that question, that we cover that all.
but I think it should be a note on the agenda, you know, so that they know that if they want to be on the agenda, that they need to contact this office and ask to be included, because they just can't appear here, or they can't notify her the day before and say, I want to be included on the agenda.
They call it the day before, they can put on the following.
Following, exactly.
And usually you give them a time. You say
Right.
7 to 10.
Right, you guys always have a,
Yeah, put the time so that.
Does that work?
Yeah, but they get a break too, can we? That's fine with me. I'm good. Can
Okay.
we write it in a different color on the bottom? Are we capable of doing that? Yeah, no, yes or no? If the copier
You
doesn't
can put it
copy
in
in
bold.
color-
Can't you put it in
The
bold?
copy just in black and white.
Can you do it in
These
bold?
Black and white?
You can do it in bold. You
can
do bold.
upgrade, but it's-
No. Just do it in bold.
Just do it in bold.
So you're talking about do the little insert in bold.
Yeah, the stuff you have like written here that's now gonna have also
Right.
column.
extra stuff.
An extra step to it.
Yeah. It just looks like it's part of the agenda now.
Right.
Most people don't read the fine print.
Okay, are we all set with that?
Yes.
Is there any other business?
Off
No.
the rate.
Okay. Now, we do have one last time, public input. For those who wish to, is there anyone here who wishes to,
Yeah, I'll just recap a couple of things.
and be sure to say your name
Yeah,
again?
sorry, I'm new to this, so.
Name and address.
Todd Lazat, 21 Post Road. I just want to say I'm in agreement with Lieutenant Klein in regards to support of the dogs and such. But one thing which I kind of opened up with is, my theme is the morale issue. One of the things I always do with all my employees is that I always encourage them that to seek education, seek training, and so forth. And I've got one young lady who's been with me 17 years, and and I've always said seek out new opportunities. And the people always usually find that odd because they're like, well, you're going to lose your person. I said, no, they're going to see that I value them and I want them trained and educated. The fact is that what we've seen, I've been reading through the minutes, and I see that we engage in these new programs and such, but quickly we lose these people. And once again, it gets back to the morale issue. If you have a corrosive, toxic environment, you're going to continuously lose these people. They'll look at this opportunity for training with the dog as an opportunity in which to be more marketable, instead of looking at it as an opportunity or advancement or to look towards the future of this organization. I was heartened by the fact that with my discussions with Captain Cecilio and Lieutenant Klein at the awareness event and such in regards to what their outlook is on the future and such. And so that was good to hear and good to see. It was good to see the people, all the other officers that were there as well. Once again, on the HR issues, I think the commission needs to look at ways in which to survey the personnel. I think, as with the public input here, can be me too. I mean, I can get pretty downright, hardcore in my criticisms, and but I think that aspect of it, this combative nature, is more due to the fact that there's a lot of distrust. And until you really get down to the heart of it and try to figure out what the heck's going on, you're still going to lose people, and you're not going to be able to sustain any of these programs. And Lieutenant Klein just basically said it. He's suffering with the situation right now. He's got a lot of new bodies, people that need to be trained, and that's all of a sudden he's basically saying that pulls away from his ability in which to serve the community. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes.
Laura Willett, 3 Summerfair Street. Regarding the Hooksett Police Department's extremely large legal line, I have a few questions. I wanted to know why you needed 2 attorneys, and why the legal lines are listed as union and commission in all the budgeting in the town reports. I get the impression that Jim Higgins represents the commission, and I get the impression that Liz Bailey represents the chief. And I was wondering, is that a fair assessment?
Not totally, if I could explain. The reason there's 2 lines is the commission line that's for general issues, anything that pops up. The union is mainly meant for negotiations or other issues that come up that relate to wording or understanding of the contract. Maybe if we're going to reopen the contract, or there's language that we stumble upon that both sides agree we need to talk about. And Jim Higgins is the attorney that negotiates the contracts on behalf of the commission, the department, but the commission with the union. So that's why there's the two lines. As far as in any of the other issues that go on, Attorney Bailey represents the department, not just me, but the department, and Attorney Higgins advises the commission on procedural steps through any of those processes.
Couldn't you use just one? Do you need 2? Does it have to be 2 separate attorneys?
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
The reason that I remember the commission going to that was, let's just say we have an issue popping up. If the attorney that's representing the department, let's just say it's a union employee or not, if that employee has an attorney or not, then the police department not me, but the police department has an attorney that's prosecuting, for lack, I guess, of a better word, of presenting that. The commission is then sitting as a panel of judges, 3 judges rather than 1 judge in the courtroom. So it would not be proper for the attorney that is already representing the department on the issue that they're deciding to also answer their procedural questions, because that would be unfair, just as it would be unfair if the attorney representing the union or the non-union person was to answer their procedural questions. So the separate attorney is to keep them on track, if you will, of proper procedure, and you have the 2 attorneys and the 2 opposing sides that are presenting an issue, and that attorney keeps them on track. But it wouldn't be fair to have one or the other give them procedural advice, and that's why it's done that way. And again, the procedural advice also is so that the commission is fair to both sides as they're acting in their capacity as of ultimately passing judgment on an issue that's before them. Does that help? Or?
I guess so. I just look at it from the school point, and we've never had these type of issues in all my years when I was on the school board of even a grievance coming in front of us. We had 1 attorney, we handled negotiations, and very few other things. So this is, it's kind of alarming to see a small department compared to what we have in employment on the school side, and we never had 1 grievance in front of us. We never had all of these issues. So there's got to be, we have 1 attorney, and that's all we needed. It's pretty simple.
Well,
It's supposed to be.
Right, it's not supposed to be back and forth.
yeah.
Who goes over the legal bills and approves the payment of these bills?
I do.
Okay.
Along with all the other bills, before they go up to the town for payment. Actually, both of us do.
It's probably not in your best interest. You should have an independent, impartial person doing that.
I think Carol had
That's up to them.
I don't know.
All right, well, thank you. With a right to know request, we received a copy of the April 2009 Police Department legal bills. I'm assuming that these bills represented in part the public grievance hearings of Officer DeFina. The department appeared to be in some cases in daily contact with the attorneys. And at the bottom of the bill from Attorney Higgins, the description was listed as labor negotiations. And it didn't make sense to me because it was a year when we weren't in labor negotiations. So I was kind of wondering who's watching this.
The labor negotiations in the spring were the second attempt in the last year for the sergeants attempting to form a union. So Attorney Higgins, because that was a union issue, dealt with that. That had nothing to do with the Officer DeFina issue. That was a separate issue.
That was the year before.
No, they did it twice.
Yeah.
They did it last fall, then they tried again with a separate union in the spring.
That was the year before.
Yeah,
All right.
well, the first one was the tail end of 2008, but then in the spring, they contacted a different union and attempted to form a bargaining unit with that different union. So that's why.
Okay. I've also created a graph of the police department legal expenses from the 97 to 98 fiscal year until the most recent available numbers of 0809. And I have a copy of that graph for each of the commissioners.
Thank you.
I personally find this disgraceful. At a time when the economy has placed many families in hardship, this type of flagrant disregard for the Hooksett taxpayer cannot be tolerated. In an attempt to justify these high legal expenses, the chief has said that maybe if the town council had done the same, the Hooksett Poor fiasco could have been averted. Yet here we are with the Hooksett Police Department in utter chaos and the likelihood of several legal battles in our future. I wanted to ask the chief this: if the police department ends up losing any of these legal, and you don't have to answer, any of these upcoming legal battles, would you consider resigning, seeing that this legal strategy has not worked?
I think for those kinds of questions, if you have questions, we'll, because we're not going to go, it's not
No, I
supposed
know,
to-
and that's fine. It's
Okay.
just a question I wanted to pose, but that's it. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to ask?
J.R. Willett,
Yes.
3 Summerfair Street. As far as getting back to legal, I noticed it said union negotiations, we spent $21,000 plus this year for last budget cycle. Is that correct?
I don't know that.
For union negotiations?
That line, union negotiations, covers whether it's with our
Yeah, I
union
know.
or also with the...
I think if that's a question that he's asking you, we'll take his question, because you can't fly off and without knowing. Okay, is that your question?
Yeah, because right now we have there's two separate lines.
Right.
There's the
Right.
commission, and it's my understanding it's union related.
Okay,
And it was $21,000 that was spent for that. The other issue I had was about the K-9 program. I agree with Lieutenant Klein as far as, trying to get the police force back up to where you need to be. Unfortunately, you do have the funding for the K-9 in place, other than purchasing a new dog and going through the whole training process all over again. I'm a big proponent of K-9s. I think our town needs it. I think it's a great thing to have. It's very unfortunate, unfortunately, that Rob has left. But one thing we have to look at before we do implement this program again is that the cost associated with it, and we've retired now 3 dogs in a matter of maybe 7 or 8 years. And it's my understanding that when I went online and I checked to see the retirement age for a canine is 8 years. So it's something we have to consider. What's going on? Why are these dogs retiring at such a young age? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to? Yes.
So I think Manchester and Hooksett Police Department did a great job on the presentation at the library last week.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Anyone else wishing to address the board? Seeing none? We have a non-public. I need a motion to go into non-public.
So moved.
And it's, there are 3 different citations. RSA 91A 3 colon A:3, section 2A, 2B, 2C, and 2E, all of those? Okay, we're covered. Mr. Roy? Yes.
Second.